going? Okay. Let's see what the market is going to bring us today, this week. All right. So, how's it going, everybody? It's your boy, Haiti Pips. And yeah, I didn't get to go live last night, or last week at all. Had some technical difficulties going on with my computer and everything, trying to figure out how to make the stream a little bit better. We'll see if that worked or not. I got this blue light on. Probably should have turned that off. It's kind of glaring at my glasses a little bit, but let's get into it. So we're in a new month, July, and when we get to a new month, I like to look at the monthly candle, the new candle that prints, and then kind of go weekly, daily, and then maybe get into the hourly chart a little bit. So today is really just going to be kind of looking for zones, looking at prices, looking where I think overall this month or within this week where I think price could go to find some high probability setups. So it might be a little bit longer of an analysis, but that's okay. I just want to get my bearings for the week and really for the month, right? So without further ado, let's get into this. So we're on the dollar on the monthly, and last month it printed a very bullish candle. So I'm definitely looking for the dollar to start to pick up to the upside now, especially with the interest rate news that they came out with during FOMC, I believe, a couple weeks back, saying that they're going to start to raise the interest rates. And that's going to make the dollar go up naturally. They said by, I think, 2 hikes by 2022, I think. So, I don't really trade the technicals, but that is something that, is definitely going to make the dollar bullish. We'll see if it comes to sweep these lows out first before it does that. Either way, this month, I'm looking at this candle and I'm looking for the upside. Now, I do see in the past that we've had bullish candles and we've dropped. Bullish candle and then we kind of dropped. So I'm waiting for a kind of a retracement before I personally am bullish, like super bullish on the dollar. I need to see some type of retracement in the short term, right? At least into like this type of area down in here, into this price. So I'm gonna keep that there and see what that looks like on the lower time frames. On the weekly, this was that big news week that we've had in the past 2 weeks. Dollar really hasn't done much at all. So I'm, like I said, waiting for it to come down a little bit and then go to the upside. When I go to the weekly, I can see kind of this area down here that was really, it held for a couple weeks and then we busted straight through it. So ultimately, I would like to see it come all the way back to 90.65. I'm not sure if it's going to make it all the way down there. It might just come up to about 91 or come down to 91.30-ish. But I like this level down here for like the ultimate best setup I can find. If I bring my fibs out and I just go from the low to the high, it's almost lining up perfectly with the 61.8. So I'm going to just move it a little bit in that 90.75 area. That's what I'm going to be looking at for the dollar to eventually get to. If it doesn't get there, I probably won't be buying any dollar pairs, to be honest. I'm going to be patient and wait for that to happen. You can see how it made this big move up here. It corrected, took a while, and then it finally started to move up again. So I'm waiting for this correction. Once it gets down here, I think it'll be a really good setup. Now, I don't really want it to slam down there fast. I would rather it kind of get there a little slower, but we'll see what happens. I'm going to look at my indicators real quick. And I'm going to take the RSI off. I know a lot of people use the RSI. I was just using it for a demonstration at one point. I'm going to take the RSI off and just focus with the MACD. So the MACD is kind of showing me on the daily how we were making higher highs. The MACD was not. So this right here should start to pull back into like the 50 or the 200. So the 50s down here, we're above the 200 there. That's good. I'm looking for, yeah, the dollar to come back into this bullish candle, basically. So I could take these fibs from like this area right here, you know, and play the 61.8, or even this area right here and try to play the 61.8. But I'm looking at this overall swing zone, trying to be really patient to get back into this little imbalanced area. On the 4 hour, right, the 4 hour, all I see here is, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, but the strict divergence is right in my face as well. So what I'm going to be looking for on the dollar, it's risky. So I'm going to keep that in mind, but I'm going to be looking for it to come up into this area and then to start to correct down into the area that I'm really looking to buy from. So I don't have to just keep lines on my chart. I'm going to keep this zone right here, and I'm going to make this zone blue just so I know to look to buy from it. And I'm going to just go ahead and take these fibs off for now. So that's what I'll be looking for the dollar to ultimately do. I mean, it's just been so corrective and kind of ugly, to be honest. In my opinion, just would love to have a deeper correction. We didn't get that. It started to move up, showed the divergence. And so at this point, got to be patient, try to find some type of setup with some type of probability. Like I said, on the 1 hour, you can see there's some demand right here. So you definitely need to watch out for this area on the dollar. And it's also starting to form some type of rising or falling wedge in a sense. So it could start to pop from here, and if it does make higher highs at this point, I think it's an area to probably look to short, to be honest, just because there's a lot of room to the downside that needs to be filled in. I would also create somewhat of a rising wedge on the higher time frames. So let's go back to the higher time frame. And if we do get something like this, move here and then move here, something like that, I'll definitely be looking to short. There is a gap up here on this broker at least. So there's a gap all the way up to 93, pretty much 93 straight. And that could play out up to the top here. If we get just a little bit more drop and then we get like this 3-wave move. If we get that 3-wave, I'll definitely be looking for the short, but in the process, I would probably end up taking some type of an L off of this. So this area on the 1 hour, I'm looking for some type of short opportunity right here. I would say it's kind of a lower probability type setup just because there's still opportunity for it to go higher, and it has just been making higher highs and higher lows. But ultimately, I see this little break of structure here, and I would like for this to put in a lower high and then make a lower low, eventually coming all the way down into the area that I'm looking for. So I'm going to kind of take these off my chart and basically fib this from the top to the bottom where we are now. And you can see that lines up really well with the fibs I use, 61, 78.6. So I'll be looking for some type of possible selling opportunity if price does end up kind of getting up into this area, maybe forming some type of pattern and then back down here into these equal lows pretty much. So that's it for the dollar. The euro should pretty much be the inverse. So it'll be pretty much the exact opposite of what I said. We should see a really nice bearish candle here on the monthly, and we do. And so the zone held right here pretty much, and we're starting to get that, pretty nice drop out in my opinion. Kind of double topped up in this nice zone and gave a really nice bearish candle. Now my volume, I'm going to turn that back on now that we're not on the dollar. The dollar doesn't give me volume. And yeah, you can see there wasn't a whole lot of interest up here. Once it got up there, began to fall. Let me bring a little bit less price into it just to kind of see where we are right now. Okay, so this is interesting. There is not a lot of volume up here, and there's not a lot of volume right here. So what that's telling me is if price does start to slip basically this area, and we're on a monthly, right? So it could take a minute, but if price does start to slip this area, it should go ahead and make its way down all the way down into here. That's what it should do based off of the lack of volume. And also, you see how there's not a lot of volume up here either? That's telling me if price comes into that, it should more or less show less interest and possibly make that move to the downside. So I'm going to actually keep that back on there, and I'm going to go to the weekly and see if the weekly's lining up nice as well. Okay, yeah, you can really see it on the weekly actually. So I like this. I'm going to change these to demand areas. And I mean, you don't need this volume profile, right? You can clearly see that there was high demand right here with these candles took off. You know, the next area would be all the way down there. So it's a pretty obvious area. I just use this as confirmation. And then this was another obvious area where demand pretty much came in pretty strong. So if we break this low right there, I'm definitely expecting the euro to pretty much fall all the way down into these areas. So whether that be trying to catch it now or trying to catch lower time frame moves to the downside, because it should, you know, ultimately give some type of wave pattern down there. But what I'll be looking for is trying to catch this move. So you can see there's volume here as well. So I believe this is going to hold as resistance if price does come back into this. So let's go down to the daily, and we should be able to see that volume as well there. Okay, just bring in. Okay, perfect. So just like I did with the dollar, I'm going to fib it from the high to the low, and that area lines up just perfectly with the fib zones that I use. So, and it's also showing me that if price does pretty much start to move to the upside, there's not a lot of orders sitting here. So if it does start to move up, it's probably going to get there faster than I personally would want it to, but this is telling me exactly why it would get there fast, because there's not a lot of volume, there's not a lot of orders. So if it breaks these highs right here, we're most likely getting back all the way up into 1.2086 area. And at that point, I would be looking to sell. So I'm going to change this to red and look for some type of sells in that area. Now that's pretty much a long way away. I don't even expect it to get there this week, honestly, unless there's just some crazy move. So before that, I'm going to try to find some type of setup to get there, because I really want to see price there. I see this holding unless it just starts to smash through. And this is kind of another you know, opposite of the dollar. If it does do this right here, that'll be a really good opportunity to buy into this, in my opinion. But it's still not there either. And like I've said with the dollar, I'm probably going to take an L if it does do that. So I like to see this type of volume right here. There was big volume down at these lows, looked like a fake out to the downside, and then a complete shift. So in those situations, I like to try to catch, you know, if price comes back into the little manipulation spot. So let me bring the MACD out. MACD did make a nice move here. It's starting to show some divergence, so price is kind of making these smaller, higher highs, but the MACD is not with it yet. So if price comes up one more time, it's probably going to be somewhat of a fake move, and we should see a correction to the downside just based off this divergence. And when it does do that, or if it does do that, that could be a possible area. But I'm really looking for this type of move here, coming into this area, and then from that, I'll be looking for some type of bullish move into the sell box at the top. So be looking to probably take a buy off of there, taking out these equal highs, and ultimately trying to see if the market wants to really come up there. I'm not going to swing it that far, but that's the direction I want to see it go. I want to see it move to the upside off of this and get all the way up into here. And then once price gets into this area, that's when I'm really going to be interested in the sells, big time. A lot of volume, and you can see there's just no volume here. So if these get broken, this thing should move straight up. So that could be another setup to look for, depending if price gets even gets there. Okay, AU. Okay, so the Australian dollar must be a little stronger because this looks like it's moved a lot more. But let's go look at the monthly. And the monthly candle closed very bullish or very bearish as well. So this is another one that I'm looking to take to the downside eventually. Especially how it came into the, this area right here where it's shown a lot of resistance, and then we got this pattern, this nice evening star pattern. I wish there was a little bit more volume on the monthly with that, kind of indicating that it should move, but that's okay. The daily or the weekly this week fell out really nice, and I remember when it finally broke this range right here on that, and it still hasn't necessarily came back to test it. There's not a lot of volume here, so it hasn't completely dropped through, but this would be the next area that I'm looking for price to get to, right around here at the very least. Really probably a little bit lower, but right there at the very least. So I'm going to keep this marked, and I'm going to mark it as demand. MACD's not giving me much here, except that it's starting to pull down. Let me look at the daily. Okay, so the daily's given a little bit of divergence. There was some high volume off this push up. Let me bring in a little bit more price so I can see this a little bit better. So right up here, there is a ton of volume. Now, price might not make it all the way up in there, but if it does come all the way up into these prices, I would definitely be looking to short this big time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the fib from the very high to the low, and I'm going to move this into that 61.8 area. And if price gets into there, honestly, it's probably going to form, some type of little harmonic pattern to send to the downside. But you can see just the high volume. I do think price is going to get there. Let me go to the 4 hour. The 4 hour has strong divergence off this as well. So the whole market kind of diverged last week as it made these lower lows, and then the MACD's coming up. So off of this, I'd like to see a pullback and then another move to the upside, basically. Very simple with AU. Now, it's forming some heavy divergence on the 1 hour right now. So I wouldn't continue buying into this at this point. I don't necessarily see a super good entry, to be honest. Let me just bring in maybe all the way up in here is where I possibly see it, getting to, and then starting to correct. But that's a little bit more risky. I'm going to keep that line there for myself, but ultimately, I want to see it come down. If this is where it stops, wherever it stops is where I'll end up putting this fib. But you can see there's literally no volume down in here, no interest. So that's why it came in and just dipped off. If it can come back and hold in this value area, that's where I'll be looking to take the market. And in fact, I want to see exactly where this volume is from this low to this high. Okay, so there's a lot of volume in right here as well, based off of this move. And then there's some volume, you can see a little bit of volume in right here at the 61.8. So if it starts to fall below here, it's definitely moving to the 61.8. So I'll be waiting for that 61 more than anything on AU. It's just a patience game right now. It might be a scenario to scalp it to the downside. See how far away it is from the 50. Yeah, I don't love that look. But ultimately, I want to see it get all the way up into here. and then swing itself back to the downside. And G, they all look the same. So yeah, GU looks very similar. I don't even really think I need to get all the way into it. Let's see if I do. We got a bearish candle on the monthly. Bearish candle on the monthly coming into the supply. A little bit of higher volume, but not above average. We get this breakdown. Now, it hasn't broken structure like all the other ones. So it might be kind of trying to not catch the top, but a little bit more risky. The daily came in and held above this 200 EMA. This one kind of already did a little break, retest, drop, but I'm still looking at these to continue to the downside as I'm looking for the dollar to, rise. So I want these to come up into this area. You can see the high volume right at the 78, and then I want to see it come down. This one isn't as pretty as the other ones in my opinion. So let me go to the 4 hour. Let me bring a little bit less price into it. So yeah, there is a lot of volume at the 78.6. So that's where I'll be targeting price to get to. If I can find a setup to get price up there, that's what I'll definitely be looking to do. So at this point, the only thing that I really see is from this low to this high. And all the volume is sitting up here right now. From this impulse, the most volume was right here. So that could be a fake move, to be honest. If it breaks below, we should see a move to the downside into this area where there's a little bit more volume there as well. And in fact, if there's a way that I can make these value areas just a little bit darker, that works. And this works. Okay, yep. So down into this area is really where I want to see it. And if there's another value area, let me see if this does anything. That just makes it kind of brighter, I think. So I'll just keep that like that, just so you can see where the amount of volume is down here. That's where I want to see it come down into, and then look for the move to the upside. If it gives some type of like bearish candle, it might be a good opportunity to short just based off of this divergence. The 4 hour isn't really diverging yet, but it's showing a very low volume. So that's a signal that this push up is pretty much not real, and we could see another move to the downside here. So I'll be watching these USD pairs tomorrow during New York session for a possible move. Now, let's look at UJ. Clean everything off. UJ looks like it might have started its run to the upside again. It had a really strong move and it paused for a little bit, and then now it looks like we could be picking back up to the upside. It didn't necessarily break these highs yet. It broke its most recent high, but it hasn't really broken this area yet. I'm looking for it to really break through that to be 100% bullish on it, but I'm bullish on the dollar overall. So I do think this has a chance as well. Now, this is showing on the weekly some divergence. So I don't love that. I don't really like playing against weekly divergence. That's showing that it still could possibly correct down, and the weekly candle here isn't even that good, to be honest. So let's see here. On the daily we have pretty high volume on this bearish engulfing. So I'm actually not really trying to buy UJ right now. I know it's in a really clean spot on like the 4 hour right here. If I fit this last impulse, it's in a really nice spot. So that's definitely a possibility, right? It's definitely a possibility that I could move from here. But based off last week's candle, I'm not I'm not loving it, to be honest. Looks like the past couple weeks actually it's shown some possible rejection, like it wants to turn around, and with this type of divergence, I'm not loving it. There's divergence on the daily as well, and it's just been grinding pretty slowly. So regardless, if you are looking to buy right here, it's probably going to be a slow grind, a couple days at least. It's not really my type of move. We're getting low volume in right here on this pullback, but before that there was higher volume on the move down. So I'm not getting the best read off UJ right now, to be honest. I could see it going either way right here, right now. So this fib could play out, and it could move to the upside from here. I think if I were to really look to play it, I would need to wait for the 78.6. If anything, just to get the best risk to reward. But other than that, it's kind of a 50-50 in my opinion, based off the higher time frame. And then when I go down to the lower time frame, you know, it's in an area that I could swing from, but the swing setup doesn't look very good on a higher time frame to me. So lower time frames and higher time frames aren't lining up very well for UJ in my opinion. So I'm going to hold off on UJ most likely. Okay, USHEF. On the monthly on USHEF, we got a bullish engulfing, so it looks very similar to the dollar. Bullish engulfing on the monthly, so overall I want to see this start to move to the upside. We've been talking about USHEF for a while, how, you know, from this fib high or low to high, it came into the 78.6 and then it started to move away. So ultimately, I want to see this get up into these wicks up here and right there, and you can see just the confirmation with the volume. That's where most of the orders have been. So I'm looking for it to get up there. On a weekly, let's bring in a little bit more price. Right here, this area, low volume area, I want to see price start to bust through this. Now, I really want to see it correct first before it does that. Not 100% sure it's going to do that, to be honest. I don't know if any of the dollar pairs are really going to correct as much as I want them to. I'm like a risk. I don't like taking a whole bunch of risk on big impulsive moves. I don't play the 38.2. I don't play the 50%. I only play the 61 and the 78. So if it doesn't correct into those, I just miss out, and that's cool. There's a good amount of volume down in here. You see this candle just completely engulfs this one and just started to take off. So I would need to see a move down before I look for a price to come and take out these highs and move into those overall areas up here that I really want them to get to. On the 4 hour, you know, it is still above the 50 EMA. We're getting very light volume right here. We got light volume yesterday, yesterday. Today still, but Monday light volume. I'm seeing a little flag right here though, so I would like for this flag to play out on a 1 hour time frame. I would have to wait for a deeper retracement for myself. I don't really care for playing breakouts, so if it does fall, good for it. I would like to see it come into this area very nicely. I like the way it's already corrected, so it's taking its time to get here. So no matter how it gets here at this point, I think it's a good sell into this area where there was a little bit of manipulation up, and then we got the slam down, complete shift in structure. So if it can get itself up here, I don't care how it gets there, even if it flashes up quick. At this point, it's showing that, you know, it's fighting. This would, to me, would be like a fake move high, and then I would be looking for the move down. I know this was all NFP related, but regardless, it still looks like a good move to me to bring it down into areas that I would like to see it move from. Okay. EG. Okay, so EG looks like it's setting up for my boy. All right, let's see what we got for EG on a monthly. So I know Abdul is looking for this swing opportunity. You know, on a monthly perspective, it's kind of iffy. Not really showing me a whole lot. This area here is held as demand for quite some time. And then, of course, up there is held as supply. We're not even close to that, though. So price might be looking to come into this area just because it has done that so many times in the past. Let's go to the weekly. Now, we've been looking at this candle for a while, waiting for it to come back into it and then make a move to the upside. So, it did come, price did come back into this candle, and then it moved up pretty swiftly. And so, this little impulse, retrace impulse looks probable as well. So it might not make it all the way down there, but we'll see. We'll see. Depends on what the pound really does, to be honest. On a daily time frame, this is the setup that I know Abdul's kind of looking at. Well, overall, we've been fibbing this move out. My cat just jumped. Get out of here. All right. We fibbed this move overall, and it hasn't quite hit the 78.6 of it yet. So it still could, definitely. But when you go down to a lower time frame, you have this little impulsive move here. And we have that fibbed as well. And so price is pretty much in the area where I know he's looking to buy from. Me personally, I would need to see some maybe lower time frame confirmation to really want to see it move. Right here we have some bullish divergence a little bit, so that could be a move that could happen. But ultimately, with it looking this choppy, it's not really my style. This type of impulse right here, I would have played like the impulse, retrace impulse, and then kind of been done with it. So it's, just you can see how sideways it's been. I don't think it's really a market to really put a lot of risk on until it really shows its cards. But at this point, it's in a spot where I'm more in favor of going up than down. But I don't really have a good read on it, to be honest. So if it does give some type of lower time frame impulsive move, then I think that would be a good opportunity. But other than that, I don't really have a great read on it. So I'm going to skip it. GJ, let's see here. GJ on a monthly. So GJ hasn't done much. Past couple months, he's been kind of grinding out, kind of slow. Slower than usual for GJ, at least. Not feeling this monthly candle that much. Not really giving me a whole lot. On the weekly, last week it didn't do a whole lot. It hasn't necessarily broken structure on a weekly time frame yet, so it's still bullish like overall. On a daily, it did kind of break down nicely right here, form that lower high, and lower low could be coming, but it's holding at this 50 EMA, and that's kind of every time it's hit that 50 EMA, it's kind of moved to the upside. So it kind of double bottomed off this 50 EMA, and it could just continue higher. There's not really a super confirmation on the higher time frames that this should drop right here really yet. I know it's an area where it's dropped before, but yeah, no patterns or anything, in my opinion, on GJ really falling hard yet. Only thing I see, honestly, is I see this move. Sharp move down and then a sharp move up. And usually when you see that, you get a correction in here and then it ends up moving to the upside. I can maybe justify this as like some type of a bear flag, but I just can't not see this sharp reversal type look, in my opinion. So with GJ, to me, I don't have a clear read on it as well, but it does look like it's going to start to move to the upside. I go to the 1 hour. It's pretty ugly regardless right now, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. It could go either way. I'd be waiting for like an impulsive move in either direction to really even try to play it. If it does impulse down, then we could be seeing this area get retested down at the bottom right there. Let's see if there's some volume. In fact, let me do this here from this impulse to this move here. Yeah, it's not looking like there's a whole lot of volume down in there. So I'm not sure if it's really going to want to come down in there, but if it does impulse to the downside, I'd be looking for like this area pretty much right here to get hit. But I'm not getting a good read on it, to be honest. It's in this area right now where there's a high volume, probably coming up into this. If if this continues to hold like it is, there's not a lot of volume in this area, so it might just slip straight through all the way up into this area. But like I said, I don't have a good read on it. GA. Let's go to the monthly on GA. So so far, the dollar pairs are the only ones that on like the higher time frame that are really showing their cards. The GBPs are a little bit more iffy. Even the GU that I looked at was not as clean as like EA or EU and AU and USHEF. So on a monthly though, this looks like this should eventually start to roll to the downside, but I would really need it to come way up here first. So that means I would like to see it kind of do something like this overall. On a weekly, it's been holding in this area for a good amount of time. And last week's candle and the week before, it's kind of showing some nice rejection. So the possibility of it starting to move up yet, I don't really like it. I would like to see it actually move to the downside, to be honest. So I'm going to fib this from here to here and look for price to dip down into the 61.78 area. So on a lower time frame, I'll be looking for sells on GA. And really, this was probably the swing to look for, and I'm pretty sure Abdul is in this type of a setup. But up in this area, when you got this impulse down, now it didn't break structure, so you'd really have to go to like the 4-hour time frame to see this impulsive move, right? Clear impulse, clear retrace. You got the A, B, C retracement. Give a triple top at the 78.6, and then it started to drop. So this could be an area where if it does come back up into this area up here, I might look to short. So I'll take the fibs from the high to the low here and stick this into this area. Now the volume isn't loving that. Let me see if I can get some more price to show. Okay, that looks a little bit better. A little bit more volume up in this area. So I'd be looking to short the market around this area if price wants to get up there. If not, then let it fall. A little bit of divergence going on right now. So the 1 hour is starting to show signs that it might turn up, so that's good. We're getting this cross right here, so that's pretty bearish. It's been kind of sideways up here, so those moving averages are going to start to go sideways as prices kind of averaged out a little bit. But nonetheless, I see this area as like equal highs, and I would like price to come steal it and then drop. A pattern just like that. So I like how GA looks. EA. So what's going on with this? This is telling me that the euro is weak and the AUD is strong, but also the GBP is a little strong as well since this isn't moving much. So the euro's weak, AUD strong, sending this to the downside a lot further than GA is. So that's how I kind of cross and analyze that. On a monthly for EA, what did it do last month? Didn't do a whole lot. Kind of stood there and didn't do anything. And now we're already starting to get some big momentum to the downside, honestly. Let's see here. Last week, it did very similar to GA. The week before, it gave this bearish candle, came back and tested it, and it now looks like it's starting to drop. So, y'all know I posted that BA swing setup. This is kind of like what I was seeing. I would like to see it eventually break through here. This is a pretty strong area that it's held at. And if it breaks through here, we should see it start to roll down to the downside with these EMAs holding as resistance. On the daily, I'm seeing, you know, just straight up bearish candle, indecision, and then we're starting to drop already. So kind of got to be careful right here in this area where price is held. If it shows a wick, that you know, might be telling us that it is ready to go to the upside, but what I was seeing is some major divergence here. And as price was trying to make these higher highs, the momentum wasn't feeling it. Eventually gave that bearish candle with higher volume. So I'm actually in favor of this to continue to the downside, but like I pretty much say over and over and over again, I need to see a retracement before I get in. So if it doesn't retrace, I'm just going to miss the move. So I need to see it come up into here. There is good volume right here, so I like that. And then I'll be looking for that zone to break. GA looks like a little bit better of a setup, in my opinion. This would have to really come up really high before it dropped. GA definitely doesn't need to come up near as much. So it would be a bummer if this kind of got taken out and then it dropped, but well, it's got to take some type of risk. All right. Let's see here on gold. Gold monthly candle, very bearish. Cool. So this is starting to look a little bit like that complacency. I think we might start to see this happen. Let's see here. On the weekly, actually, let me go back to the monthly and see where this volume winds up. So yeah, if gold starts to like break down, it's coming all the way down into these areas. I know it's a long ways away, so I'm not really worried about it yet, but it looks like if this area doesn't hold, we're coming all the way down to like 15, and then the likes of like 13. So that's what I'm seeing on gold. A long time frame. This weekly candle, I still want to see it come up into these areas before it drops, just off my strategy. And on the daily, it did kind of put in this little Wyckoff move down here. We'll be able to see that once we go down to the lower time frames, but ultimately I'm looking for this to come up into these areas before I look for any type of shorts. Looks like right in this kind of area right here, there's not a lot of volume, so we might see gold start to move to the upside kind of fast if these don't hold as the resistance. But you can see the volume is lining up really nice with the 61.8. So 4 hour, this is where the Wyckoff, you can kind of see it a little bit better, where we have move here, the secondary test, the spring, the test, and then the move to the upside. That would have been a nice position right here if you bought. At this point, it's been kind of grinding up slow, not really impulsive. So I don't love looking for pullbacks at that point, just because it hasn't really made a huge impulsive move. But like I said, I think if this area, pretty much right where it's at, doesn't hold, we're probably going to see it move pretty quickly to the upside. So let me bring in this again. From here down, you can see there's literally no volume, and you can see it right here. Price just dropped out really fast. So I think this could be a spot where gold begins to move pretty fast into these areas that I'm looking to sell. Let's see. In the past, you can even tell that this has been like an area where prices moved quicker than most. Right, quick right here, pretty much. Ran out from it pretty quick here, and then very quick here and very quick here. So it's just in an area where I think we could start to see a lot of movement. I don't see a setup on it, but I think it's going to start to move pretty fast. Okay, the VIX is just dying. So the VIX tells me, kind of gives me a read on what the indices might or might not do. And, you know, there's nothing really telling me that it's going to just turn around right here, to be honest. For a while, it was showing some signs with this doji, and then this monthly candle was kind of saying psych, and then this candle kind of gave a doji saying possibly. I don't really see it yet, though, to be honest. It looks like it's going to come down a little bit more, especially last week's candle. So I'm not really looking for the indices to just turn around just yet. A lot of times, though, when it does give like a really big bearish candle, it will just turn around unexpectedly. But I'm not playing that game. Daily, showing wicks down here, so this area needs to hold if this is going to go to the upside. It's been a little bit of demand right here, just a little bit. Let me go to the 4 hour, and it closed the day with a bullish candle on the 4 hour. These wicks on the daily are not showing up on the 4 hour, as you can see. It looks more or less like this area was completely broken, so I don't know what that's all about. But regardless, it's not looking great for the VIX in my opinion. Some other times where like it's busted up right here, we've been able to call some shorts on the indices, but at this point, I'm not really looking to short the indices just yet. Now, if you've been on my streams for a while, I pretty much never look to buy the indices, and I've been, you could say, wrong. The times where I've looked to short the market, I've been correct, but they don't hold very long, to be honest, and they just long term just keep on rocketing out. So, I mean, last month, all-time highs for the NASDAQ. You can see the volume, though, is just, when you get a big candle, you want to see big volume, and that's not at all what we got. So to me, it's just telling me that this has a stop hunt type look to it. And eventually we should start to correct a little bit at the very least. On the weekly, it's the same thing. The market's been making higher highs. The volume has just been not there. So I know overall this thing is starting to diverge still. So for me, just higher time frames are telling me that this thing could start to really fall to the downside. So I'm just kind of staying out of trying to buy it. I know it has just been going up, 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 up. So that is what it is. But I'm really looking for more of a corrective move. Now, when you're at all-time highs, it's really not the best idea to try to find the corrective move or try to find the area to short at. It's just, I mean, it's at all-time highs. All it takes is a little bit of break of these highs for this thing to just, there's no ceiling. So trying to find the ceiling, that's where it gets really risky and difficult. My momentum indicators are starting to roll over, but like I said, it's pretty damn risky right now. There's not a lot of volume. I mean, yesterday was kind of a holiday type scenario, but this right here, whenever you get a big move up and then the volume just dies, that is almost a signal that the market, that was just a fake rally, pretty much. So I'm really not gonna buy the indices for anything. I don't even care what this one looks like. It's gonna be very similar. I'm gonna take this off. I mean, yeah, I've been wrong. They've been just going straight up, but at some point, you just gotta kind of not really care about, I guess, what everyone else is doing. You kind of just gotta lean on your own technicals and your own system. And for me, you know, I don't ever really buy at all-time highs, and I don't ever sell at lows. So it just is what it is. It's just been keep pushing up, pushing up, and pushing up. I think eventually it is going to correct. I can't call the top on this. I don't know when the top is in. I know that there's a lot of divergence up at the top right here, so it's making higher highs. Momentum is not making higher highs. So eventually it should correct. As you can see, the past year, it's held at that 50 EMA though on the daily, so if it corrects, it's probably just going to get to that and then move up again. This area right here would be like the only area I would even consider buying, and it would be way down in this volume area, down where we had, you know, a good move down, retrace, drop, and then that was when the VIX started to pop. But then ever since, we've just grinded up super slow. So this right here is telling me the momentum is almost dead on the 4-hour chart. On the 1 hour, you've had a little bit more pushes, I guess, but even the 1 hour chart, the divergence is still there. So I would not even look to buy it unless it came all the way down here, unless you're type of a breakout trader maybe. But right now, I think we're going to see some type of correction, or we should see some type of correction on these indices. Same thing with US 30. It should be almost the exact same thing. Monthly probably made all-time highs or got close to it. Yeah, it got close to the all-time highs. Gave kind of a hanging man pattern up here. That's sort of a reversal sign at the top of the market. Especially with low volume. So, I mean, like I said, trying to catch the top on these pretty risky, regardless. Once it gives some type of bearish signal, then I think I'll try to look for maybe the second or third wave down into this area where we had the sharp move down, sharp move up. If price comes back into there, I think that's a really good buying opportunity, to be honest. But when it's all the way up here like this, I don't think it's really a smart idea, to be honest. This area right here, price fell from pretty good, and we're almost at that again. You see, we've fallen here, and I think if any of them look like they're gonna fall soon, it would be US 30. But even that, yesterday was a bullish day, so I don't really like playing against the bullish candles. Okay, Bitcoin and the cryptos. So on a monthly time frame, we have given another downside wick. So everyone who's been on this knows I'm pretty bullish on cryptos just because of my personal portfolio. But when I see this, you know, on a monthly, it kind of gives me a little bit of hope. I feel like that's almost a bad thing, though. I feel like when the emotions start to look good in the chart, that's when it's probably not the best, to be 100% honest. The way it's held at the 50 EMA on a weekly time frame, that is good. This to me is starting to more and more. The more it doesn't just shoot out from this, the more it looks like a little complacency pattern. That, you know, people are thinking, oh, here's the next rally, and then we're probably going to see something like that. To be quite honest, unless we see a week similar to this one right here, where it really just takes off and breaks these areas, I'm not 100% sold on this market going to the upside. You can see yesterday it actually printed a very bearish candle with the volume starting to pick up a little bit. So that's, you know, you don't want to see any more supply in the market. You want to see there be zero supply, and you want the demand to start to pick up to the upside. You know, the death cross is in. There's, you know, I know this is the Wyckoff I've been talking about. Got the spring, the test, but after the test, you're supposed to see the market move out rather swiftly without too much problems. And it's just like the sellers don't necessarily want to give up, or the miners are selling. China, all this BS is still going on. So until we break this trading range right here, really if we don't break the downside, you know, it's still okay. But if we can't break above this trading range right here, I mean, it's just making me think more and more that we aren't in the cycle that I think we are in when it comes to the Wyckoff. Uh, like I said, it needs to bust through these areas with no problem really, and it hasn't quite done that. So I'm just marking these off as supply and demand, and you know, it's really a waiting game at this point. I would like to see this, you know, tomorrow just completely engulf this, to be like honest. If it doesn't do that, then I mean we're gonna make a move down into this area one more time. And if it gets all the way down here, the selling pressure is probably gonna bust it through to like 28, 27, 26, even the likes of 24. So this needs to really hold as a you know, higher high, higher low. It really needs to hold as another higher low for us to be like super confident. This could be like a little flat correction before it moves to the upside. It definitely could. But the way yesterday's candles were dropping with a little bit of volume rising, and let's get that out of there. You can see the volume starting to rise right there. That's kind of a bearish signal. So it needs to turn around soon. Overall, I don't advise leverage trading the cryptos at all. So this is all for like a long-term portfolio perspective. And if they can't break above the middle of the trading range, that's another thing. If it just doesn't want to go above the middle of this, then that's another sign that the sellers are still in control if it can't break above at least the middle of it. So it's not great news for Bitcoin, which means honestly all the other markets are going to look pretty similar. Let's go take a look at Ethereum on the monthly though. Let's look at these monthlies. Right, so this one looks a little bit better, especially with this, how this month has already started actually. Just a big old move to the upside on Ethereum. Then we had this huge wick, both sides. You know, this definitely could run itself back down into these areas as well. You know, all the way down to like 1,000, even 800. I know I've fibbed this a million times, so really the fib comes down to like 800. But with these wicks on the monthly, you know, if they hold, right, if they hold these lows, that's a good sign. But the longer they stay down here and don't really start to just bust out, the less likely it looks. Now, last week on Ethereum, it looks like it could have double bottomed out in this area. So it does look a little bit better than Bitcoin actually. Yesterday was a bearish day, but if this completely reverses around, that's the same thing. It's the Wyckoff cycle. It looks like it could move. Ethereum definitely looks better than Bitcoin right now, but these are just the little areas that it needs to really bust out of. If it can't get above 2,900, it's just going to stay in this trading range or even go lower, right? If it does break above that, there's two things that could happen. It could either break above, pause, and then if it comes back into the trading range almost at all, it's probably going lower, legit. But if it breaks above it and then just consolidates right above the trading range, we're going to make another move to the upside. For sure, going to make another move to the upside. Litecoin is looking like Bitcoin. So it's really going to move off of Bitcoin for real. Nothing, you know, it's got this little falling wedge pattern. So if it does test one more time, it could be a good idea, but it's just going to follow Bitcoin. And then XRP. Let me see what XRP looks like on the monthly. So XRP does not look very good on the monthly compared to the other ones. I feel like XRP is a little bit more jumpy anyway. It's back in this area though. It's a good price to hold on to. I do think, you know, this one has not like more potential, but if anything, you know, this one from here to here, you know, 4x your money at the very least. Probably more than that, longer term. especially when the SEC lawsuit gets all figured out. This one's actually down into its fibs that it, really needs to get into. That 56-cent area did get hit. So, ultimately, long term, I don't really think it's going to get all the way back into here. I don't think it's going to come all the way down here unless the crypto market just tanks. Then we're literally going to see cheaper prices than we've seen in 3 years, 2 years. So I would like to honestly see XRP hold here and start to move to the upside. It is above the 50 EMA, so that's a good sign. It needs to show some engulfing pattern, and then I think this has some room to run up, especially, like I said, when the lawsuit is over with. But the trading range on this one is not near as pretty. Nothing looks good here, especially with this bearish candle with a big volume. That looks like it's going to send another move to the downside into these areas. You can see the high volume ends right here. So yeah, the crypto market, to me, it really needs to show a sign of strength. That is the key to the crypto market right now. If it cannot show a sign of strength, then it's most likely, going to make lower lows, sadly. And that's okay. That's just better pricing to average in at. But if Bitcoin really needs to, it really needs to break above this high, to be honest. So it's got a little ways to go to get there. And if it starts to break lower here, it's a very bad sign. If it gets back into this 30K area, I don't think that's good at all. I know it's bounced at 30, 31 a whole bunch, but I don't think it should have came back into that at all if this was the Wyckoff that we were looking for. So we'll see what happens with these crypto markets. If there's some bad news that comes out this week, I think that will send it straight to the downside quick. But whenever it does start to pick up eventually, you're going to hear a whole bunch of good news happening. Not before it happens, but as it's happening, the good news will just pile on and this thing will just blow through the roof. But of course, we're not there yet, I don't think. And if you're a trend line guy, this looks terrible, right? This looks absolutely terrible. So that's it. I know it was kind of a longer analysis. I wanted to really check out everything. But I appreciate y'all for coming on. I should be on again at least 2 or 3 more times this week to really see how everything's playing out more intraday. But that was just the overall picture of everything for the monthly, weekly, daily. So again, I appreciate it. Make sure you go check out our website. Take advantage of the discount that we're still offering. 25% off. Course should be done by the end of this week. Everything should be finished by the end of this week. And Monday we should have everything up and running 100%. So make sure you take advantage of that 25% off. Send me or Abdul a message if you're really interested, and we can get you that get you taken care of. Nonetheless, guys, y'all have a good week, and I'll see y'all later. Abdul will be on tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. to go live. So that's it. Peace out.